Hi, welcome to the No Life Kings podcast. I'm Draves,
And I'm Case.
and coming to you in issue 30, we're going to be giving you some news highlights from the Marvel Universe, the DC Universe. We've got some other things, I guess, we want to tack on to the end of the news highlights, and then we're going to kind of go into depth in what we've seen so far in The Mandalorian.
Sounds good. Yes.
Looks like Ant-Man 3 is filming now.
Well, next year, I believe.
Oh, it's next year.
Let me rephrase that. Paul Rudd said it is going next year. I don't know what that means.
That's super interesting. So, I wonder then, does that mean like a 2022 release for Ant-Man 3?
Well, maybe with everything being pushed back for COVID reasons, it's just why film it? Because I was actually wondering this. Will the MCU TV be the main story pusher from now on? For at least the next 2 years, right? Because movies are kind of hard to see right now.
They're not hard to see. I have a television.
Movies are hard to see when they're only released on streaming services randomly and at odd times and cost you $30. But we've had this conversation before.
Like we've talked about this before. The movie industry just needs to grow up and realize that nobody's going back to the theater when this is done.
So the whole, I think we talk about this every week, but the whole who's going to blink first to happen down, I don't think we had this written down in the DC news, but Wonder Woman is going to be available Christmas Day on HBO Max. I think you have to pay for it. No, wait, maybe it's free. I can't remember. Then 30 days later, it's going to be on other services. So the whole, will Wonder Woman come or will Black Widow come out first was kind of like this ongoing debate. It was also going to be like who's going to be the better superhero movie this year. So Wonder Woman blinked, I guess, first with the streaming service.
It's just silly.
It's also probably Disney has a lot more money. So,
I mean, I look, if they, I'll give you a great example. No Time to Die, the new James Bond movie. They've delayed it, then they've delayed it again, they've delayed it again. If they told me, hey, look, for $50, you could watch this movie,
Benjamin,
and you could own it. I would just pay the $50.
But then you're forgetting about all the theaters that don't get that popcorn money.
They can take the some of the margins for my $50 ticket that I've essentially paid into some kind of like fund for them. I don't know.
Or could Disney just own all the theaters?
Just, we're all stuck at home. Like the movies are there. Just let us buy them. Like,
well,
it's so silly.
I still think there's something we don't understand, but there is this other weird thing. Like Disney Plus doesn't need a movie like Black Widow to get subscribers right now because of what we're going to talk later, Mandalorian. You got Scarlet Witch coming out on Disney Plus. So there's a lot of new stuff coming to Disney Plus to attract subscribers, and specifically MCU stuff, right? Because you got Wonder Vision and you're going to have Falcon. So I can see how they can hold off on Black Widow, especially if Black Widow is like the kickoff for the next phase of the movies. And they don't want to kick that off too early when they can't film the other movies. The other thing I just don't know about is and then HBO Max, I think it's a big win to get Wonder Woman on it because a lot of people will subscribe to HBO Max because they don't really have anything there for DC right now. But I still wonder if there's weird contracts with actors in the movies. Like, do actors have a way of being like, well, hey, this has to be shown in the theater to be like in my contract? I don't know.
I think they may have an obligation to the theater and to preserve their relationship with the theater industry if they think it's gonna, sort of like hedging to see what happens after all of this passes.
I mean, also imagine a world where we have a vaccine and over 70% of the world has taken that vaccine. And the theater opens.
It's not about the vaccine.
No. I'm just saying
that's the problem.
Say there's safety. Say there's safety somehow where you can safely go see a movie in the theater. I don't care how it is. There's a way to safely go do it, right?
I barely wanted to do that before COVID.
Yeah, but I actually like theaters, so I would go.
I like theaters from the sense that, like, you and I, we both kind of have like higher pressure jobs, right?
Yeah.
And so like going to a theater is a good way to like slow
I
You
understand.
slow everything down. Like the time is just dedicated to the movie when you're in the theater.
Right.
So
Your
that's
silence.
nice. But I don't, like having to go to a theater.
But just imagine. Just imagine this world for a second. Say the world somehow got to a point where it was safe to go places in public with lots of groups of people and do something. And imagine that world where Black Widow came out the week that this was like officially going to be a big opening. And all the people who actually isolated themselves finally can go do something. That's a lot of money. That's all I'm saying. Like that could be the bet that Disney's making, right? Is that they don't need this to go out on the Disney Plus right now because they have other things that entice you there. And their big bet is like, if we hold on to this, we could be that tentpole movie right whenever people go back to the theater.
Look, I think this, like Disney, especially with the theme park business right now, they just announced another like sort of set of layoffs.
32,000.
They're going to have to do something big, I think, to sort of compete with Netflix, compete with,
they have that though.
What?
People, they already have those things though on Disney Plus. Remember, they don't get money for you keeping. They don't care if the subscribers stay. They want new ones, right? So a lot of the people like MCU are also big Star Wars fans. So they are already subscribed because they want to see the Mandalorian. It's not like Black Widow is going to entice them to subscribe to Disney Plus. And then the people that might not be Star Wars fans that are MCU fans, they're all going to subscribe because of WandaVision. So they have these things that already entice you to the Disney Plus platform. Black Widow is just going to like be maybe a little bit of icing on top of that subscriber pie they have. That doesn't make sense. You don't put icing on pie. Anywho. So I think that's why Disney Plus is in a different stance than whoever makes DC movies, Warner Brothers, where Warner Brothers doesn't have that for HBO Max, right? There's no ongoing series that drives subscribers or gets new subscribers.
Yeah, I think that's...
I'm not saying what I want. I would love to have Black Widow today. Don't get me wrong. I would pay money to see Black Widow today. It's not what I want. I could see why in some corporate meeting somewhere these conversations would happen.
Look, I like it. This whole thing is silly. Like, this is the future. Let's just get on with it. It seems like the only people that are in denial about this whole thing, seemingly, is the movie industry. I don't think people are going back.
We'll see. I mean, I will be. I mean, not anytime soon, 2021 probably. But
I'll go for like things that we have to see for this podcast.
And then you'll fall in love all over again.
But even then, if I had the option, I wouldn't.
See, say that, but you are aware. I mean, we can move on after this, but there are a lot of theaters that only show old movies inside the theater and people go and see them. So there's people want to see movies that are even available streaming in theaters currently.
My view is that whatever the old sort of like a lot of the habits that people had in the old world are not coming to the new world. I think movie theaters are one of them.
I think it's a good escapism that people will want.
I would short AMC stock, but I don't have to.
Oh no, AMC is going to go out of business. I'm not saying that the current theaters that exist will exist, but there will be theaters that show movies, and it might be.
If I recall correctly, and this is not a investing or business podcast, but AMC just had a bond offering that apparently got snapped up because people were actually, at least some segment of people were bullish on them coming back.
I think more likely someone's going to buy them, like or someone's going to stand them up. Well, I'm saying like Disney, right? Say Disney was like, crap, we want to show our movies. We're going to buy all the AMC theaters. And now not only can you watch WandaVision at home, you can go to a theater and see WandaVision the day before.
I think that with the theme park business and the way that goes, I don't think they're going to be making like big real estate plays.
No, I can see real estate's always profitable. They're going to turn all those movie theaters into hockey rinks, obviously. We'll see. We have about 50 more episodes of this show to talk about it before it actually will matter. So,
yeah, that's fair enough. So let's move on.
Yeah, other Marvel stuff that we've heard this week. So what? Lauren Ridloff, who's in the Eternals movie, officially said that the reshoots have all officially wrapped. So Eternals is in post-production at this point.
That's awesome. So we can not see that soon as well.
Again, probably we won't because I think Black Widow has to go first. Unless Eternals is one that's supposed to kick off the movies and Black Widows is just a one-off. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe Eternals is just a one-off. We actually don't know all this information. But again, yeah, it'll probably, I mean, it wasn't due to come out till 2021 anyhow, I think. So it's a year of editing usually. But yeah, so another movie we can't see. Hey, want to talk about another movie you won't be able to see? Apparently, some anonymous insider said that Thor, Love, and Thunder will have Avengers 5 feel due to its expansive cast.
Think about that. So it seems like there could be the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Just from the way Endgame ended and Thor sort of like going off with them.
Loki as a hero. Switched up a bit.
Loki is dead.
No, he's not dead.
Thanos killed him.
Yeah, but also Thanos killed 50% of the population. They're all back.
But not Loki.
How do you know?
I think the people that he killed like normally like didn't come back.
So
snap people.
There is a photo. Here's the director of Thor.
Taika Waititi.
Thank you. Yes. He's with the Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team. Picture of him and one of the people he's been hanging out with, and it's Idris Elba, who played him.
Probably just all buddies. I mean,
well, or he's on the set because they're bringing his character back,
or like they're shooting any number of other things in New Zealand.
Well, yeah, because New Zealand.
Or they're just like hanging out.
No, I agree. I understand that, but that was like a rumor that people were saying is maybe it's not him. Hall.
It could also be flashback scenes.
Yeah. But I mean, I would love to have Idris Elba back in the MCU. He could be doing a new hero. Oh, another person that could be there, which would be completely insane. Sylvester Stallone's character from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah.
Avengers 5. Which one's Avengers 5?
What was his name?
I don't remember the character's name at all.
Stryker? No.
Stryker sounds like something that Arnold Schwarzenegger would be in any one of his movies.
Yeah.
It was almost like, oh, he's already Cobra, so he can't be Cobra. He was already Rocky, can't be Rocky. So I'll go Stryker feeling about it and take it as it is. I would prefer the non-Avengers movies to be more solo-based movies. And so when Captain America Civil War happened, it was like, why didn't you just call this Avengers Civil War? Like, if you're just going to have everyone in it anyhow, and it's not like focused on a kidder.
Is it because it's a Captain America storyline, right? In the comics?
It's a cross platform. It's a cross.
Is it just called Marvel? Is it just called Civil War?
Yeah, it's just called Civil War. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well then maybe it doesn't make sense. But I really have no complaints about that movie. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, it's a good movie. I'm just saying I'd rather it be called Avengers Civil War than saying Captain America Civil War. Like I don't like this idea of, oh hey, here's a Thor movie, but every other hero's in it, and then that makes Avengers feel not as grandiose. I mean, it's the same as comics. Like when I read a comic, and I read a lot of them, of course, but like when I read Spider-Man, as soon as one of these big cross-platform events happens, where like, oh, Spider-Man's gonna go hang out with Avengers because a new version of, I don't know, Mephisto is in town, and they all need to go find some MacGuffin to stop him. I'm like, oh God. When's this over? I want to get back to this. Spider-Man. Because if I want to read a book like that, I'll go read X-Men. I'll go read Avengers. I'll go read some special trade about these people, about these stories.
Yeah.
But like whenever they turn in the solo comic books into these big event books, it's like, oh man. So I think that's my same thing with these movies. But again, this is me putting my own personal opinion on it. Right? That was a really good movie, though. Don't get me wrong. I love that movie. So
I also think this, like, they can kind of do like more now because like the universe has grown enough, right? That big, like before, if you had like like when you have Doctor Strange showing up in Ragnarok, right?
Yeah.
That at the time actually seemed like a pretty big deal.
That's
right?
Cute though. He did it cutely, right? He's only in there for like a scene.
Sure. But like, now you can have like the universe is big enough that in theory, these people should run into each other.
Well, but like imagine like Civil War could have been called Iron Man Civil War because it was also about Tony Stark's family dying, about him going crazy, right? Could have been called.
The titling more than anything else, I feel.
Yeah. No, the movie itself I enjoyed. I just think like it wasn't a Captain America movie. And like Thor, Love and Thunder, I was hoping for a Thor movie, not a group movie. Now, if Avengers 5, when they mean Avengers 5, is just that there's a group of people maybe? Because I just realized you could have Thor, right? You could have the rock guy, that I can't remember his name from Ragnarok. Korg. You can have Meek, of course. You could have the Valkyrie, right? So maybe that's what they're talking about, where it's like, yeah, it's Thor, but he has companions with him, on the next adventure, versus like, oh, look, all these other characters that aren't usually part of Thor's mythos are here.
Yeah. I still think you're probably going to see the Guardians at the beginning of that movie.
Where everything left off, yes. No, I agree.
The first part of it would be him getting kicked out of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Or just
dropping him off somewhere.
You have an 80s montage to a Rocky song. It's going to be the whole like first 10 minutes of it. It's like a really big montage. In fact, they just filmed Chris Evans working out.
Chris Hemsworth?
Oh, yeah, Chris Hemsworth. Too many Chris's. I knew I was wrong, by the way, when I said his name. Anyhow, I think the only other news we had with Marvel, and this is really small, but the first photo shot of Miss Marvel came out. Kamala Khan, actually, she's not in the suit from the set. So they're filming another movie that we will never be able to see in the theater and streaming. Going back to the streaming thing, before we talk about Miss Marvel, because I don't know how much anyone knows about Miss Marvel, they could be looking at, like, since they're already filming like Miss Marvel, they're starting to film Miss Marvel, they're starting to film Eternals, they're starting to do editing on these things. They could maybe target a better format for streaming. So instead of being like, oh, we need to focus on big loud noises and these big dramatic scenes, we can now edit this more to like what someone's normal TV viewing would be.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying that like one of the reasons they wouldn't like release Black Widow is that it was never edited for
TV. Yeah. Screen. Yeah.
I can see that.
And then so like this way they can now edit it towards like the targeted media. Because like when you watch a certain movie like I'll even pull a 70s movie out, like 2001 The Space Odyssey. In the theater is a dramatically different experience than your home TV, no matter what system you have set up.
I felt that way about Endgame too.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's more emotion. You feel like more emotionally emotionally enthralled, I think. And then like just some of those scenes, like when Captain America and Thanos are standing across from each other, and Captain America's basically like almost dead. Like that graphic looks awesome on the large, huge screen, right? So maybe that's another reason, is that now going forward, they know they're going to target streaming more, so they can now film towards streaming. Not towards streaming, but towards like the smaller, more, what's that word I'm looking for? Personal experience? Like Quibi.
Say with a small screen, but like in a lot of cases, the TVs people have in their homes, just based on like the distance they're actually like sitting from it, are actually bigger than the movie theater screens.
Well, I'm also tying into like the speaker system, right? The sound effects. You have IMAX sound where you have really good.
Do you have like a surround or home theater setup?
Nope. I use the TV speakers.
I was actually just a big fan of using the TV speakers, and then I got like the Sonos Beam.
Right.
And for whatever the price was, like it dramatically upgraded my TV sound, and I don't really feel the need to ever really have a home theater. It just seems like something.
I was looking at getting a sound bar. I just never did it. And maybe this comes back to the whole fact that I go to theaters a lot to watch movies. So when I want that loud noise where I feel my chest vibrating, plus I have people that live with me, so I can't really use it unless they're all awake. So that's another problem. But I'm just saying, like, all that stuff combined, like it's also I think TV is a little bit more personal experience. It's usually like one or two people watching it, so there might be stuff you might put in for that. I don't know movie making versus like when you're on a huge screen for thousands of people, you're looking more for that grandiose, that's not a word, that grandiose moment where you might want more personal moments whenever you're on a smaller screen. I'm just saying. I don't know if this is what people are thinking about, but even like as a director, like there was a reason why there are movie directors and there are TV directors, right? TV series directors. It's a different skill set.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sure.
Like Josh Whedon.
We've come back now to the whole theater.
Yeah.
versus TV thing.
But the whole
Yeah.
like Firefly, for example, though, right? When Serenity came out into the theater, as like the you know, because Fox canceled the TV show and they had Serenity as like a tying loose end in the theater. Almost every review, and even myself, basically said, "Oh, this feels like this is another episode of the TV show." Right? It didn't feel like a movie because it wasn't filmed like a movie, right? Because he was at the time more focused on television, so like it was edited more for television. It had that feel of television versus the feel of a movie. So maybe I'm saying that those are some reasons why I was saying that. But anyhow, back to Miss Marvel. I just want to say, is for those who don't know it, she's the first. One of the big things about Miss Marvel was the fact that when she came out, she has an Islamic background, and it was one of the first times they got an actual writer that also has an Islamic faith to write that person. So really, when you read the first run of the series, it really has this tie. It's not like preaching Islam, but it has this tie to what an Islamic upbringing would feel like for someone who also gets powers. Just like whenever Peter Parker gets powers, you know, it feels like like if someone in his shoes if he got powers. So it's kind of like this nice thing that they got someone who had that history so that you can understand from their point of view versus someone just guessing, right?
You know, there's something to this though, because I got like the trade paperback for Spider-Man India, and for some reason it was just really cool just to see. like you know, like it was just really interesting, right?
There is 100% this. I mentioned this before. I think this tie of when you can when it's easier for you to project yourself onto the main character, not because they share a similar background as yourself. You definitely get tied into the story more. And I think that's probably a psychological thing. But like even like Peter Parker, like there was whenever he had his Clone Wars and Ben Reilly became a character. Ben Reilly has blonde hair like I do, so I actually got like more attached to Ben Reilly for a bit, and then Ben Reilly actually ended up being the real Peter Parker. But that's not the point. And it was just like I'm like, why do I like him better? And I'm like, okay, just because he has blonde hair like me, that's crazy. That doesn't make sense. But I think that might have been part of it. It was like just those little things that like you grasp onto to make yourself project better. Is interesting. So I'm glad this is like when this book came out, it was really cool to see it. It actually won awards. Miss Marvel, by the way, is technically an Inhuman. She gets her powers whenever Terra Mist gets released over the world, and everyone's getting powers that are Inhumans. But she always had love for Captain Marvel. So when she actually gets her powers the first time, she actually looks like Captain Marvel for a bit, but her powers are more stretchy. She's like a plastic man, where she has like, she can stretch her body, she can grow really big, really small. So she basically
like Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah. The only difference is that she can actually minimize, because she can do the Ant-Man thing where she gets really tiny or get really tall too.
Yeah, I always get. It's always weird when powers get duplicated across heroes.
It's just there's so many heroes. One thing that's cool about her though, since it's her own body doing it, she has to intake a ton of calories, and so they actually tie that into the book sometimes, where like she can't do something because she hasn't eaten enough. Because she has to like recover the calories she burns to do the activity she's doing, which I think is pretty neat.
It's kind of cool. I think like in the Flash TV show.
Oh yeah, they do. He burns a ton of calories from running. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's got to like eat a lot, right? Because he's burning a ton of calories.
Yeah, one of those DC shows that I haven't watched in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't either. I tried.
I like Doom Patrol, but I still can't even watch Doom Patrol. It's really weird. I don't understand it. And speaking of our wonderful DC friends, we only have like one big news thing. It's not even that big of a news thing, but it's apparently there's a photo from the new Snyder Cut of Justice League, which will actually include Slade, with Deathstroke for those people that don't know. And they released a photo of him for the shoot, and I just like the fact that the place I was reading, look at the photo, called him Colonel Sanders looking, but apocalyptic. He basically has a mohawk.
how much footage did they cut from Justice League that like Deathstroke was in it and like
So from what I understand, what I heard is they reshot like 15 minutes of film. That's assuming
how long
Snyder
is
is
the movie
actually
now? Wait a
cutting.
minute, how long is the movie now?
Well, it's not a movie; it's a series.
I see.
So Justice League on HBO Max is going to be released over a set of episodes. I have no idea
But
how
it's the
long.
movie, right?
It is the movie. Yes, it's this movie, but it's been released over multiple episodes. I think it's going to be 4 hours long. Maybe it's going to be 5 hours long. Yeah. So they're saying that it's probably going to be about 214 minutes long. So 3.5 hours. So he put together a 5-hour assembly cut, and then they're cutting that down to 3.5 hours.
They should just release the assembly cut. Or like better yet, they should just give us like the tools to make our own cuts. and then there'll be like the case cut, the Draves cut.
Mine would just be opening credits and closing credits because that movie's garbage. Sorry.
Yeah, it would just be like I think it would just be the trailer.
It would just be Batman and Superman saying Martha, even though it's not part of that movie.
All right, before you get into this whole Martha thing, should we move on?
Yeah, sure. I hate DC. No, I don't hate DC. I like DC. I've been reading some good DC stuff, but that's beside the point. Yeah, so last thing that we were to talk about, and this is more because of our childhoods, but Jeff Fowler, who made the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that neither of us saw. I don't even know if anyone saw it, but had to be remade because of how scary Sonic looked, is attached to direct a Pink Panther movie, live action CGI hybrid.
Ooh.
Ooh. If those who aren't as ancient as I am, Pink Panther is a cartoon from the 60s, 70s. I'm not actually sure when. Where it's a Pink Panther detective that solves crimes, but's really bad at his job, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And they had but there's also, and this is the thing you pointed out when we were talking earlier, is there's a live action Pink Panther that actually exists also.
Yes.
But it wasn't a cartoon. It was just like, it was basically like a guy dressed like Bogart, trench coat. But he bumbled around. It's basically like, what's the guy's name? Mr. Bean. It's like Mr. Bean if Mr. Bean was a detective and could talk. So kind of like bumbles around and somehow solves the case still. Loved it. And as soon as Draves earlier started singing the theme song to it, I was able to finish it for him.
So
that was an opening for you to start singing the theme song again.
Actually, I was just trying to see if I remembered it. It turns out I did. It's that iconic.
It is, yeah.
Got Pink Panther, so I guess now we can move on to the main event.
The main juicy morsel. The
Mandalorian.
I'm gonna say Mandalorian season 2, part 1, as in we might have to come back and talk to this whenever the season's over. But I heard that the first 5 episodes out, and you like them all, right? You love the show.
I am kind of the. It's entertaining, but I just haven't like. And by the way, some of this is just informative for those of you who for those of you who do follow the podcast, you do know. Those of you who maybe are listening to this for the first time, like I've sort of been struggling with sort of like some quarantine. I don't know what you'd even call it, but like one of the things that's really happened is that it's been harder for me to enjoy like sort of like Netflix and things like that.
Right.
And so just like watching things, really, I can't tell if it's some of that or I'm just not as into this season. But I've just kind of like, I kind of feel like a lot of it so far seems like, hey, we got to do this. Okay, we need a button. I need something. Okay, great. Well, you gotta do this thing for me. Okay.
So you're saying it's a bounty hunter movie?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm expecting too much, but it just seems like, I don't know, I could use like maybe a little bit of variety in the structure of the episodes.
Yeah, it right now feels very what we were talking about earlier, monster of the week type of stories. Yeah, not always sure. Monster. It could be, hey, I'm at a certain town and I'm going to deal with the evil person here, or hey, I'm now at this monster I'm fighting. Hey, now I'm at this monster I'm fighting. There's no overarching storyline other than get to the next playset. What is kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, and I guess like, I mean, I think the overarching sort of thing is, I guess there's a couple things going on, but none of them have really been developed enough to be interesting. I guess, like, I mean, the characters trying to find the Jedi to return the Baby Yoda to. I guess that's kind of ongoing. Then
Yeah,
you
he
have
has a
like
name now, by the way.
you have a series of Mandalorians that are seemingly break the rules and are trying to, like, take the throne back. To do that, they need the dark lightsaber. That's kind of going on. So, like, I guess there's those sort of like threads. I just feel like none of them have been moved enough for me to really get excited.
Yeah, I think weirdly enough, I think this season one, I really liked. Now I don't know if I liked season one as much as I did because I really did not enjoy the last Star Wars movie at all. So was it like a cleansing for me when I watched the new one? When I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can like Star Wars, or was it actually better than the season two? I think I agree with a lot of things you're saying where. I'm not 100% sure where the story is going. Like, you don't know where the story is going. Almost like, okay, where's he going next week? What monster is he going to fight? Are these characters ever? I don't even know if those Mandalorians are ever going to show up again. Like, it wasn't like, oh, hey, meet us here later. It's just like, peace out. This is where you find this character from an old. So the Jedi he finds a Jedi eventually. Not big spoiler because I think everyone probably knows this. Is from the Clone Wars. And apparently, like, a big deal from the Clone Wars cartoon, right? Someone like all the fans really loved. And just so everyone knows, I like Star Wars, but I've never been like into extended universe. I've only been the movies. Well, I'm going to phrase that. I like the first three movies. Hate the movies that are considered the first three movies in chronological order. Love the movies that came out in the 70s and 80s. And the new stuff is like I'm 50-50 on them, right? I read some of the comics, never really watched the cartoons, never really got into like the books or anything like that. But the Jedi that they end up finding is a big deal in the cartoons, in the Clone Wars, I believe. So I think, and so that episode is getting a lot of like, yeah, this is great. Now I don't know if it's because the episode was really good or because she was in it. There's one thing they do in Mandalorian that I like is the very first one. Where they go to that outpost and he has to fight the monster, has a lot of like call outs to an old Western movie. So when you're like, instead of riding the horse into town, he's riding the scooter, not the scooter, whatever it's called, into town.
I think generally, I mean, you would say, I think this has been said a lot, that the Mandalorian is kind of like a Star Wars spaghetti Western.
Yeah. But even the newest episode feels more like what I would expect from an anime or Japanese movie, like even that like showdown where it's Mandalorian versus the big bad. Not the Mandalorian, the Jedi and versus the big bad. The way it's filmed felt like almost like, I mean, it's not an actual Japanese or anime movie on the point out, but it felt like the big fight scene in Kill Bill. Whenever she finally gets to the lady at the end of episode Kill Bill 1, where they're both like sitting, it's like this very beautiful scene, and they're like got that. I can't think of what the projection would be, but like basically, like if you're playing Mortal Kombat, they're like the one character on the left, one on the right, and they're like making the stances, and they're kind of like changing how their swords are held because you're sizing each other up, before you make the attack. It had that like that feel to it, So that scene at the end where they're fighting, it really reminds me of like
Kurosawa.
Yeah, Kurosawa. Like, it had that feel a little bit to me. I'm not saying it wasn't like to that level, but it had this like that feel where like the first episode had a Western feel. I think that it's interesting how they're taking these different looks. But I agree with you. Like there is no like I hate to say this. There's no like. I guess it's what you said, but it's almost. I don't want to say mystery box because J.J. Abrams ruined Star Wars a little bit too with those. But there's no like. There's no thing that grabs you to come back for the next episode other than I want to see another Star Wars episode. Because since it's always just jumping between Monster of the Week to Monster of the Week, it's like, I want to watch Mandalorian. What else am I going to do tonight? Right? Versus, oh man, I can't wait to find out if this happens. Oh, I can't wait to find what happens. Basically, what you're saying is
totally. I mean, the coolest thing about this season was that dragon fight was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But it's the Star Wars universe. There's a lot of cool things you can show me, but I'm really like intrigued by like how is this story gonna get driven forward? It doesn't seem to be happening.
I think the problem is like the Mandalorian has these things happening around him, but he's not the protagonist of the story. So it's not like driving it. So like you said, the other Mandalorians, they're also from an old cartoon, by the way. They're there. They have this big mission. They're going to overthrow reclaim the power of the Mandalorian, right? By getting the dark saber, and then they go away, right? He's not part of that. Like that could be cool. That could be a cool like thing for him to get involved in. And there's like, oh hey, there's this. Well, the first one was just a one-time thing. Anyhow, there's people in this Western town. What are you gonna do there?
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, but it's really not. It's just not enough to show me Star Wars stuff.
No, know what it is. There's like hints of things in every one of these. It's like at the end of the first one, you saw there's a bald dude at the end who everyone's assuming is Boba Fett, the worst bounty hunter ever. There's the other Mandalorians in that one episode. Like there seems to be like a person that shows up in every episode that there's going to be like the final episode's that Avengers episode where they all come together for that moment where if these were like individual things coming out every year, it probably wouldn't be as blatant, but now it's every week. It's like, why am I watching this episode? Where like when Marvel first came out, right? It was like Iron Man, cool, that was great. And then like a year later, oh, another Iron Man, I'll see that. So that didn't need that big tie-in to make you see episode to episode. It feels like it'd be following that same pattern almost. So maybe there is going to be like episode 8 is where all these characters come back together and form into Star Wars Avengers. Avenger Stars. Star Avengers? Starjammers, we'll call them. Now, the interesting thing I want to know about here is another news came out that there's a lot of people being talked about for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And we mentioned this earlier, and I want to really get your take on this, is that you said Obi-Wan Kenobi is your favorite thing and you're excited about this series.
I like the Obi-Wan Kenobi character. I'd like to see more. It's probably the only character in that kind of like isn't watchable in the prequels. And look, in my opinion,
yes,
Obi-Wan Kenobi is the greatest Jedi Knight ever.
Because he dies?
He doesn't die. He just sort of like bows out.
Well, he dies. He's not alive anymore.
He defeated Anakin at the height of his powers.
No, I think Darth Vader is the height of his powers. When he finally embraced the dark side and became what he should be.
Wait. How? I mean, like, there's less of him. Like, there's more midichlorians in Anakin.
Listen, if you watched all of Mandalorian, you know that they try to revert that whole Mandalorian thing by saying it's the force of everything inside the world. That's where we get the power from. No, every living thing has it.
It's ridiculous. You have midichlorians, that's what they do. And when you lose your limbs, you have less midichlorians. That's it. Done.
I have, all right, is weirdly enough is I don't understand Obi-Wan Kenobi. If we just saw movies, right? So he was like, okay, these two kids were born and we don't want them to know that they are the son of Darth Vader, right? Of Skywalker. So we're going to take one and give it to this Empress. Whatever, that was fine. But otherwise, we're going to take we're going to take Luke Skywalker, give them to his uncle to raise, right? And I will live in a cave nearby. If you were looking for your kids, because he knew she was pregnant, you would probably go talk to your uncle. I mean, your brother, right? He knew that family was there. It's like the worst hiding spot ever.
You don't know what the relationship between them was like?
I'm just saying, I think he's Darth Vader. He would go there. And the amount of times Tatooine is in Star Wars, he's probably been on that freaking planet 4,000 times. He's from there. You think he'd at least go back there to go kill everyone.
Generally, I don't know if that's me not understanding Obi-Wan Kenobi or me just sometimes not understanding Star Wars like generally.
Well, I'd also point out it is on Obi-Wan Kenobi who said, no, we really need to train this kid that's too old to start training on this and all the other.
That was Qui-Gon, and then Obi-Wan, out of loyalty to Qui-Gon, just like continued doing it.
So interesting enough, I actually watched a video about this recently. I thought it was one of the things that finally like said, oh yeah, it wasn't Obi-Wan Kenobi's. And it actually might have been Qui-Gon's fault for Vader in general. It wasn't that Obi-Wan Kenobi was bad at what he was doing. He was put in a situation where he had to do it versus wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like, yeah, I would love to take care of if I go adopt my own dog, right? I'm gonna love that dog. I'm gonna try to make it best. But if somehow someone randomly leaves a dog in my doorstep, I'm probably gonna try to find someone else to take care of because I don't like. I mean, it's a bad example, I guess, but I don't like dogs, right? So Obi-Wan Kenobi was kind of against training Skywalker, and so it was kind of forced upon him out of loyalty, and so he was never into it. And he also himself was he wasn't a master like Qui-Gon was. Probably wasn't even a teacher yet, right?
I mean, apparently, if I recall correctly, Qui-Gon was like one of the greatest Jedi Knights ever. Like, he was supposed to be one of the greatest lightsaber duelists of all time, just apparently not better than Darth Maul.
Well, and there's two of them at the same time too, which is, I mean, any day of the week, the best sword fighter, except for the one sword fighter in our history, but any sword fighter can lose a battle, right? Any day of the week. It's like football. You could be the best team ever, but you could still lose to a crappy team. But so he just might have had a bad day. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think Obi-Wan was put in this situation where he didn't know what to do, and so he was fumbling his way through it with a kid that technically was too old to start learning. And so I can't blame him anymore because I can actually see why. Like he was supposed to be the older brother, not the father figure.
So interesting. I just had a quick look here. Jin is actually a very skilled lightsaber duelist. He just was kind of, I guess, like older and like just kind of like he just had like less stamina, and that's why he was just sort of overpowered by Darth Maul.
Or are you sure that was as you get older, you shed off skins? Maybe you shed off Mandalorian as you get older too.
Yeah, maybe.
Like as your hair's falling out, there's actually Mandalorian in your hair. That's why he had long hair, because that way he had more Mandalorian.
Exactly. See, you understand. For a while, I was just thinking like, oh, Case doesn't get it, but he does get it now.
And that's why, like, was it Obi-Wan that had like the single braided hair on the back, the rat tail, or was it Skywalker that did? I can't remember. But yeah, so I could that learning that kind of stuff actually got me into like, okay, maybe Obi-Wan Kenobi's not that bad. But I'm really curious about the series because I'm like, what's the story going to be? Him looking through binoculars at a young Luke as he tends to the harvesters, the moisture harvesters, because he's supposed to be watching Luke. Or is it going to be a whole thing about how he doesn't actually watch Luke and leaves?
I'm trying to remember A New Hope. It's been so long since I've seen it.
I can't watch New Hope until I can actually watch the original cut instead of the one where they added the stupid CGI animals.
So I think we've moved from Mandalorian. Now we're going back to like we're sort of retracing into the original series.
No, it's fine.
Closing thoughts on this?
On Mandalorian, I mean, I'll watch more episodes because what else am I going to watch? But like I said, like I think I like it a little bit better than you liking it. I got a little more into the Mandalorian as a character a little bit.
It almost seems like you're one episode ahead of me.
Yeah, one came out like yesterday. I think you didn't.
Yeah,
you
so I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so that episode you should check it out. It's pretty good. But and it talks a little bit more about about Baby Yoda. He gets his name, so you get to learn his name, and you learn about the Force and stuff like that. But it's again, I think I agree with you from the standpoint of it is very. This is a really weird thing to say. It's a very episodic TV series, as in it's like Friends, right? Every time you watch, I hate the show Friends, but every time you watch Friends, it didn't matter what happened the episode before, really. Like there's no real solid plot through it. There's like small things, right? And I think that's what this is right now. It's like, oh, next episode, it could be on a different planet with a different monster, and some small thing will be carrying along. Like Baby Yoda likes eating eggs of Frog Lady.
Yeah. On that note,
if anybody wants to reach out to us to tell me how I'm wrong about it being Luke Skywalker's uncle that he's living with, you can tweet us at
@NLK_podcast.
Or you can take a nice Instagram picture of you with your Obi-Wan Kenobi outfit on because you're like a hardcore Obi-Wan Kenobi fan like Draves, and show us that Instagram at
No Life Kings.
Yeah. Then if you're like old school, you can write a letter to us scan it into your computer, and then you can send it as an email attachment to podcast@middlelifekings.com. And we'll happily answer everyone's read them out loud.
We'll also read mean tweets.
That's it, everyone. Cheers.
Close my eyes to hide the pain. Driven by the way it feels. Holding back those doors within as you rip my outer skin. You fall